Welcome back. 20 years later, most Americans over the age of 30 have vivid memories of 9/11, where they were and what they were doing during that fateful day. Bakersfield Mayor Karen Goh certainly remembers. As 17's Robert Price reports, she had a front row seat.
Bakersfield woman, of course, watched in horror as the second plane hit the World Trade Center and as the towers collapsed. She said the experience changed the way she lives her life.
That woman, a witness to the terror and trauma of 9/11, should look familiar.
One of my colleagues said, look, that plane is getting very, very close. At that moment, we just realized something horrible had happened. There was the impact. We're standing right there at the window, and then the explosion. And to come back the next day to work, I have a better sense of what's important in life.
In 2006, on the 5-year anniversary of the terror attacks in New York and Washington, D.C., 17 News interviewed Karen Goh, a former publishing executive who 2 years earlier had moved back home to Bakersfield after living in Manhattan for 11 years. Now she's Mayor Karen Goh, elected in 2016 to serve the city she's called home since the age of 7. And the events of September 11th, 2001 are etched in her memory.
I was working for McMillan McGraw-Hill, and at that point I was at a building that was above Penn Station in Madison Square Garden. 21st floor, unobstructed view, so we're just looking south. And we could see that plane right there. What was interesting was just to see the various emotions. So on my floor, there were all kinds of Ivy League educated people who were totally confident in their Armani suits, Prada shoes, and they fell apart. And some of the guys who are working in the mailroom, they were the ones who rose up with inspiration and courage. But for me as an executive that day, I was expected to ensure the safety of our people. And for us, this is something we've never been trained on. You don't get to practice with something like this.
The terror, the uncertainty, wasn't confined to just the events of that terrible Tuesday morning. A couple of days later, Goh and her co-workers were still on such edge, they spontaneously evacuated their 23rd story office building in a panicked frenzy that, it turned out, was based on nothing.
We just self-evacuated because somebody saw others in another building running down. And so it was that type of fear that gripped us. Those were the kinds of emotions that we felt. That uncertainty, just not knowing, is life going to be over for us today?
The mayor said that while she hopes the country never has to experience anything like that again, she hopes we can again one day return to the spirit of unity and compassion that day inspired.
That's what we can take away 20 years later. Let's think about how we can serve others the way that others served people on that very day. And for right now, I know this is where I'm supposed to be, giving back to my community.
In Bakersfield, Robert Price, 17 News.